Women are socialized not to initiate. We await the requests. That's hard for us often to initiate. When we initiate, our signals have a low attenuation that's difficult for our partners to take in.
You may not realize it, but you've been waiting all your life to hear this interview, because I'm about to interview Susan Bratton, the glorious, magnetic, radiant, sexy, erotic, eloquent teacher who lives what she practices and, like me, has a long marriage that began with plenty of dissatisfaction in the sex and bedroom department. And now, as you're about to hear, her life is extraordinary. And I'm really excited for you to provide what every listener doesn't get anywhere else. So welcome and thank you.
Oh, Alexandra, thank you so much. That was the sweetest introduction. And just so you understand who I am, I'm a publisher of passionate lovemaking techniques. So unlike you, as someone who counsels people one-on-one or two-on-one, I don't sit with people for a living by the year and help them with their process. I am more kind of like mass market, if you will. I've published 44 books and programs, the bulk of which I've written myself, but I'm also the publisher of many of my mentors whose work I wanted to bring from books and workshops into digital experiences that people around the world could have access to. That included audio, video, ebooks, etc. And what I consider to be the fundamental skills of a sex life that keeps getting better as you age. So mastery level sexual skills. You would think that sex is something that everyone is interested in. It's like falling off a log. Oh, well, you're lucky you're in that niche. Everybody wants to know about it. When in actual fact, it's just the opposite, that if you take 100 people or 1,000 people, maybe 15% of them are even interested in learning about anything having to do with their sexuality. And of those, most aren't growth mindset people that can barely manage the minimum, because we are not taught these things. And it is such a great disservice. The cultural paradigms of shame and repression are ending our lives sooner than we should and making them less pleasurable, healthy, and happy. If you have good sex, you can keep it going your whole life long if you know what to do and how to do it and how to make it keep getting better. And then that contributes to your health span, which contributes to your longevity. It's one of the cornerstones of health. I mean, those are great things. A lot of people are like, well, tell me why I should have sex. Why is sex good for me? And I could go into the cognitive and the cognitive benefits and the cardiovascular benefits and the neurotransmitters and the oxytocin and the cortisol and the blah, and the intracellular biogenesis. But honestly, is that really going to make you want to have sex? It's not.
Something that I say often is that having a fantastic relationship is a learnable skill. And certainly having a fantastic sex life is a learnable skill. And while there is all of this data about why it's worthwhile to learn how to have a fulfilling, nourishing sex life in terms of health and longevity, in my anecdotal experience, I have never encountered someone who actually was motivated by that. I find there are two reasons people are motivated. One is this depth of yearning. They don't even know what they want. They just know that what they have is dehydrated and empty. And the other reason is to create the quality of relationship that constitutes a legacy worth leaving their children. In other words, we're sometimes motivated to get it together and figure out how to have a happy relationship, which is going to include affection and erotic intimacy, so that we can model that and save our children the experience of what it's like to be in a passionless relationship. So those are the two motivators that I encounter.
That was so beautifully said. Thank you so much for that. I'll take that second one first, in that one of the things that people really carry around with them in a victimhood mentality around their sexuality is that their parents were stoic and never showed love and never taught them anything about sex. And often what I say to them is, don't blame your parents. They were doing the best they could do. Let that go. It's not actually their job to teach you about sex. It's your job to figure it out. They get this victim mindset, like, well, everybody else, I didn't get that. And it's like, no, nobody got it. But what I really liked about what you said about the legacy was actually having your children or your child grow up, and even your family members around you and your friends that you associate with, experience you as a couple who is affectionate and connected, tethered in that sensual and affectionate way. And I think that one of the reasons that's so enticing is that there is a calmness to the grounding of sensual touch and affection that can almost, if someone's in your presence and you are a woman who is sexually satisfied and fulfilled in her marriage, they're almost going to get a contact high of feeling the grounding that you have. The people who are having really pleasurable intimacy, they're not the people who are nervous wrecks. They're not the ones spilling the water on the table. They're not the ones who are high strung. They are calmer. There's oxytocin. They're finding the awe and the joy in life and living, in nature and food and art and music in addition.
And there's a generosity of heart when we are filled in our own bedroom.
Yes.
We have generosity in our listening and our creativity and all of these arenas. And I would actually love to transition into very specific techniques, attitudes, and understandings about how to really enhance sex lives. Let's just talk about initiating. It's not just the first place that things get stuck, but they often get stuck with initiating. And for a number of couples, once they get past initiating, things are better. But there's such a mismatch with initiating. Would you speak to that?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of key areas where there's a mismatch. One of them is in actual arousal patterns between the male and the female body. And though I am embracing of gender spectrum, I find it easier to just talk about a dude and his lady for most of the constructs of these kinds of relationship conversations. So I hope that'll be okay for everyone. There's the fast-acting hemodynamics of the male body, the fact that he's testosterone dominant and ready to roll at a moment's notice, typically. You know, everything in sex is a bell curve, and there are people on each end of it as well. Always ready to go, never ready to go. But most men are generally like, if you initiated and said, I'd like you to have sex with me right now, can we just go in the other room?
As long as there's no risk of rejection, you did this wrong, you're not good at it. As long as there's no risk of criticism afterwards,
right?
Then why wouldn't he be?
Exactly. He's ready to go. But conversely, that wouldn't be the right approach typically for women. Women are socialized not to initiate. So we grow up in the subservient position. We await the requests, these kinds of things. And so that's hard for us often to initiate. When we initiate, our signals have a low attenuation. That's difficult for our partners to take in. They miss our signals.
Because they're too subtle.
They're too subtle. They can't see them. It's the same in dating and flirting. Women were like, I practically throw myself at him and he doesn't even ask me out. And he's like, I'm not really sure if she even knows I'm here. That's just how it is. It's just, we are different beasts of the same Homo sapien, clan. So I think that's another thing, is that generally women, our cues are subtle and our arousal patterns are slower. And because we are the prey and not the predator, we need much more safety to be laid into the experience. And that being said, we love our variety and our novelty. We don't want to be bored. We just want to be safe and do all kinds of crazy stuff and have a good time. So initiation is very difficult. And here's what I didn't even come up with this. It is in a book that I published by Dr. Patty Taylor, who was one of my mentors. One of the things that she wrote was a 3 ebook trilogy. So we called it the Seduction Trilogy. It's called Seduce Her Tonight, The Seduction Accelerator, and How to Be Her Sexual Trainer. It's at seductiontrilogy.com. And it's really the 4 keys to seduction. And the 4 keys to seduction, the very first one is called small offers. And what it does is it primarily teaches men, but it can teach couples. It's just helpful for everyone to understand that it's not her fault, that she's not always ready to go, and that she needs to be encouraged to stop and get out of her head and get into her body and drop in and connect her heart and feel good and allow the relaxation to let her calm and to make her feel safe and to let the blood begin to flow into her genitals so that she gets ready for sex. She's lubricated, she gets turned on. And even after all these years, for me personally, I still get impatient with my own body, which is very responsive now that I've worked it so much. Very responsive. And I still think, oh man, it's taken a long time today. I still put pressure on myself in that way. We all have performance anxiety in the bedroom. But what these small offers do is they basically, instead of offering sex, which is a big ask, because we've been kind of culturally taught that sex means intercourse and everything else is foreplay. And really, everything is sex. And we shouldn't have this bifurcation that the only thing that matters is the thing that you can procreate the race with, right? It's all sex. So let's stop thinking about the race to intercourse. Though you said before we started recording that one of the things that you like about my perspective is that I love intercourse, and I think it is the creamy center of great sex.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
But not to the exclusion of everything on the outside of the cookie. I like the outside of the cookie as much as the inside of the cookie.
Absolutely.
So I want the whole thing, the crunchy outside and the creamy center. And I like them equally, and they taste perfect together. That's why they're so good, and you have it that way, right? Peanut butter's nice, chocolate is nice, but they're really good together. And so this notion of small offers. Would you like to come and sit beside me on the couch, and I'll get you a glass of wine and we can talk about our day? Put your feet up on my lap and I'll rub your feet while we're talking. Would you like a neck rub? Would you like to go lie down in bed and just have me hold you? Would you like to go take a bath, a sauna, a hot tub, a shower together? Would you like a Yoni massage or an expanded orgasm date? What's up with you? What would feel good to you? How would you like to connect? I think that those kinds of things, when a couple says, oh, I don't want to schedule sex, or, when I offer her sex, she says no, or we're both so stressed out that sex just seems like a heavy lift. Well, no wonder it does, because you're focused on like the grand finale and you haven't even begun to walk down the path toward it. And so men, being very goal oriented anyway, because they're testosterone dominant, they offer sex as an intercourse. She turns them down because it's too big an ask and they didn't use a small offer. And then he feels rejected and unwanted, and he goes down in the pecking order in his world because he was turned down and he's not respected and he did a bad job and he didn't get what he wanted, and then he turns into an angry victim and it just all goes south because all he did was offer her sex, and that's not his fault, but he just doesn't know. So I think the small offers is the beginning of the 4 keys to seduction. And it is such a huge mental shift, this whole idea. It's almost like deal flow. It's like in business where you're not going to make your number if you only have a couple of, deals in the pipeline. You've got to have a lot of deals in the pipeline. You've got to be nurturing a lot of deals in the pipeline to make your number, because stuff's going to happen. And so the more small offers that you make for pleasurable connection, the more chances you have for it to continue and to build and for her arousal to get there, etc. And then when men understand that her arousal is so much slower and she gives herself a break and doesn't expect to be having sex like a guy. The biggest problem is that most women over the years, they've just been expected to have sex like a man. And that hasn't served them. So why would they want to keep having sex? So I think that's another big aspect of it, is just learning something simple like making small offers.
It's easy, and it also is less of a risk for him, because in some ways it seems like it's a risk to move towards sex early in a relationship, but actually it can feel so risky after 15 or 20 years of marriage, or 30, whatever. And so, yeah, I really love that. Okay, so he makes the right number of small offers, or she does, regardless of who it is. They're now both a yes. You have so much to say, which isn't available elsewhere, about
That's nice.
how to touch and how to prolong and enjoy and really turn sex into lovemaking. Will you get into the anatomical and energetic particularities?
Yes. Well, I'm a huge proponent of Yoni massages. It is an unusual word it's gaining some traction. And I think it's a Rosetta Stone to really hot sex. The Yoni is Yoni, it's tantric lovemaking word for the women's genital system. So it's basically a pussy rub, a vulva and vagina manual stimulation experience. There's lots of things you can use, lots of words you can use for it. But what I like about it is that gets her out of her head and into her body. She is a multitasker because she is the prey, and you can't get away from our biology. Because she is the prey, she walks unsafely in the world. So she might be the CEO of multiple companies, but her reticular activation system is constantly scanning for danger in a way that is men are completely oblivious to, because they feel safe. So she's got her mind on a million things. And even when she says, baby, would you like to have sex? Would you like to make love? Would you like to have a date? Would you like to lie down together? Would you like to play around on Thursday night or tonight or whatever it is? She still needs help really showing up in that space with presence. And the Yoni massage is a beautiful way to offer that connection that allows her to let go and relax and let down and let the fluids run. I mean, literally, she might have to be held first and get a few things off her chest. She might have some tears come to her eyes. She might feel her breasts get a little heavy. She'll feel her spit run, and she'll feel her vaginal area start to lubricate, because that's a letting down of her defense mechanisms so that she can surrender to her pleasure. And unless you're just like super hot and heavy and you've got a bunch of new relationship energy and things like that, where it's just like Katie bar the door, everything is on in a new relationship, and you just don't need that. You pretty much need it in any longer term relationship. But people, they don't honor the animal body that we live in. And so the Yoni massage, and the reason I like Yoni is that I don't like to say vulva because it sounds medical, and I don't like to say vagina.
And it's incomplete.
Incomplete because vagina is the inside, vulva is the outside. But if we're really talking about erectile tissue system massage, we're not even talking about necessarily just those spots. And Yoni is also very spiritual. It has a connection to source, a connection to bliss. It is the seeing of God, whatever that means to you, together in your lovemaking. And that's one of the other things I want to bring into the experience for couples, is that one of the reasons that our sexuality is repressed is that it is a way that you can touch source, touch Gaia, touch God, whatever you want to call it. Nature, Mother Earth, consciousness. There are a million words to describe it, but it's a pathway to source. And when you realize that that's why that's kind of kept from you and sex is for procreation only, and you begin to take that back, you begin to take back that ecstatic co-creative pleasure that begins with slowing down, letting everything go, feeling safe, connecting your hearts and beginning to touch in this reverential and sensual way. Sensual, sexual, nurturing, and healing are the 4 kinds of touch. I think Sherry Winston taught me that. She's marvelous.
Yeah, I just
And
want to say I've interviewed her twice, and I'll link to those episodes in the show notes. Those are wonderful compliments to this conversation.
and I think understanding, oh wow, there are different ways I touch a yoni. And sometimes I start out with a healing touch, like I actually have this little spot on the upper left quadrant, right up on my mons, above my labia, on the outside, really far up on the pubic bone. I don't know if it's a genetic anomaly or an old trauma, or, I heard it on a bike when I was a kid or whatever. But as I'm starting to get engorged, I get this little catch, a little hitch in my giddy up right there. And my husband will rub across that with his lubed finger until I'm satisfied. And that little pain point has gone away, and I've gotten engorged enough, filled with blood, to mescent, erect enough in my whole genital system for that to not bother me at all. And sometimes it bothers me way more than other times. And it's just a little spot I have that I really like a lot of attention to, that you would be like, how is that even sensual? But our entire vulva are across the mons pubis, down the outer labia, which are all under the pubic hair, down to the perineum, the inner labia, inside the inner labia, in the vestibule, the clitoral hood, which houses the clitoral shaft as it goes into the pubic bone, the clitoral tip under the tip, the outer urethral area, which is actually a second G spot area, because that's where the urethral sponge ends, or comes out to the end, the vaginal sphincter muscle inside the vagina, and the entire vaginal cavernous system, and all of the tissue on the other side of the vaginal mucosal lining, our guts, our pelvic bowl, our womb. It's all our shushumna. I mean, there's a million names for it. It wants touch. It wants sensation. It wants engorgement. It wants connection. It wants release. So you have someone who will lay you down and butterfly your legs on comfortable pillows and rub you with, I've got fantastic oils I've got to send you. I should have done it before the show. It's this company called Foria. I will get this for you. There are 3 oils. One is a melt. It's a cocoa butter suppository, essentially a little troche that goes up inside the vagina or the rectum if you like anal pleasuring, which took me till my 60s and I love it now. The outer Awaken Arousal oil goes on the outer vulva. And then the sex oil is for all the slide and glide that you want. It's called my Pleasure Protocol. And this is like a ritual in and of itself of, my husband says one of the things he loves about it is that it's like the right tool for the right thing, and because I said to him, does it bother you that I want you to do like all these different things, like, oh, that bottle for this and that bottle? And he's like, no, I love it because they feel like I'm getting the right material to do the job. It's so nice. And it has some CBD, which is not psychoactive. It's a healing pleasure pathway that gives you this kind of mind vulva, mind yoni connection. It gets it started. It helps you with your own lubrication. It helps you feel more sensation. So when you have your partner touching all these parts and learning how you like them touched, and learning to come from the outside and work your way in, and learning that you can just lie there and receive, and he can just give to you and fill you up, and that it's not a goal of giving you orgasms. It's a goal of allowing the orgasms to rise up from within you and spill out of you like a wellspring of joy. That's what orgasms are really like. They're effortless after time and experience and learning the touch and the feel of your lover and what she wants and what she needs. Then once you do that for 15 or 20 minutes, sometimes you got to stretch your legs and that's long enough. She's had time to relax, to get engorged, to be aroused, to get her little clit boner popping so that everything else you do feels so much better and it primes that orgasm pump. And then that pump is just pumping out that spring water from 20 different ways you can give her orgasm.
What's clear, in order to access the quality and flavors and variety and gratification of what you are describing, Susan, that there's a verbal communication that's happening. This is not the kind of communication where you get to be told you're doing well. It's the kind of communication where it's, well, do you like this or do you want it a little different? And it's her requirement, if she's going to get the best experience, to really pay attention. If you haven't graciously conveyed that, then you are holding back on success for both you and your partner. So I just wanted to add the verbal component, which is another form of lubrication for the success of this. And then also kind of ask you and build with you for someone who's never done this. When I picture a man listening and hearing this for the first time, he's still going to wonder, where does he start? Because if you think you start by putting your fingers in her vagina, then we have done you a disservice. That is not how you're going to start.
One of the things that you have to understand, and I'll build on it, is that you want to think about what I call the bullseye touch technique, which is not going directly for that creamy center, not touching her clitoris and her vaginal opening, which is called the introital sphincter. It's a little round muscle right away, but working from the outside in, just like Alexandra said. And the second thing is that every time you lie down for a Yoni massage, she's going to need something different. She is a woman who runs with the moon and the wolves. And even after menopause, what she wanted the last time is going to be totally different than what she wants this time. And neither she nor you know what it is till you get in there and oil up those hands and get going. And then she'll say, oh, well, that little spot's not bothering me at all today. And it's feeling really good. And I already want your finger on my clit. Or, man, I know you've been rubbing my labia for like 15 minutes, but when you started putting your finger inside me, I did not feel ready for it. I don't want any internal at all today. And that doesn't mean she won't have intercourse with you later, or she won't want to go down on you or give you a lingam massage, which is the tantric lovemaking word for the male genital structure, which is the penis, the prostate, and the testicles. Because that's also very nice to let her get her hands on you. Although I think giving Yoni massages is very important not to expect any quid pro quo. It's not an I'll do you so you'll do me. It's an I'll do you and then let's see. Whatever we feel like, whatever comes up. One of the reasons I think I'm really fun to have sex with is that I've really tapped into that. I don't know what she's going to want. Let's ask her. It's like a brand new experience every time you make love when you allow Yoni to call the shots. When you just are like, well, let's see what she wants to do tonight. It's always fun to see what she wants. Well, what she wants to do right now is start out with 69. Oh no, tonight what she wants is she needs a really long, slow holding hug. And for you to tell her the 3 things you love most about her today, and then we'll see what she wants from there. It's a constant adventure when
Yes.
you get out of the rote way of doing things.
There's something about what you've just said. I want to tie it into something else because I've had multiple clients ask me with concern when they're in a long-term committed monogamous relationship, whether it's 5 years in or 8 years in. I have clients who will then say, but I like variety. I'm concerned I'm going to be bored. Or they say they already are bored with the sex they're having. And I say, oh, that's just a misunderstanding. There's a certain amount of variety that comes from having other partners, of course, but there is so much variety which only is available when you and your partner know one another's bodies so well. I just really appreciate how you presence that, this thing that if people only knew how much variety is available because you're with the same person.
Yeah, there's two things that I'd like to respond about that. One of them is that about, I'm going to say a year ago or so, one of the things I realized that people really like from me is not just pleasuring techniques or communication skills. Those are great. Those are building blocks. What they like are erotic playdate ideas, because it's a lot more fun to have a date on the calendar where you've decided you're going to work on one of the items on your sex life bucket list. So I put together this sex life bucket list with 48 erotic playdates. And it's at sexlifebucketlist.com. It's a free download, and it's a PDF. And then I give you a video that's your first play date. You can lie in bed and watch it on a phone or a laptop or your big screen TV, whatever you want to do. It's a web video. And I walk you through the 8 pages of erotic playdates, and you mark them. There's little marks next to them for A, B, or C. A is, oh, this would definitely go on my sex life bucket list. I've been always wanting to find my G spot, find my P spot, do a lingerie fashion shoot, whatever it might be. It's not for me right now, but if you wanted to, it wouldn't be for me, but if you want to do it, I'm down to try it. And C's are, it's not for me right now. Never say never. As you mature, like I said, I was 63 before 62, 61 probably, before I realized how much pleasure I get from anal sex. So I just wasn't ready. I'm a late bloomer. But I sure love it now. Often the things that you used to think were taboo begin to become part of your masturbation fantasies, and then you actually are willing to try them because you've kind of acclimated to the concept and you've put some frame around it. So the erotic playdates are one really good way to get your list so that you can think about what you want to learn. Because even just one of the things that you might consider is that there are 20 different kinds of orgasms that the human body can have. And that if you haven't had it yet, it's just like you said, Alexandra, sex is a series of learned skills. Everything is learnable. And so what do you want to learn? Oh, I want to learn how to have female ejaculatory experiences. I want to learn anything and everything. It's all available to you. And so these things can go on your bucket list. So that's one part of the kind of getting over the monotony of monogamy, is just like, what are the skills that you're learning? And then once you start to learn them, it gets that new relationship energy going that you had when you were first together and finding things out. But it does it in this beautiful hammock of the love and the safety and the comfort that you have together. You're held by all of that, so you can really get good together even faster, because there's so much less you have to learn about all the rest of the ways that you communicate and how your bodies work and fit together. I have to say that over the last couple of years, some of the things that I've really been enjoying working on, one was cowgirl. I've really explored cowgirl and getting myself off on my husband's penis. I like him just to lie down and let me get off on him. And then he started joining in. Once I kind of got my rhythm, he started adding to it and accelerating it and expanding it from there. And now, whoa, is that a lot of fun. We also really explored, for a couple of years, we really explored sex intercourse off the edge of the bed, with me using a vibrator on my clitoris while he was penetrating and holding my legs up. I've got one side of the bed I can prop a foot on. He holds the other one up. Another one we were really into for a while was doggy. I didn't used to like that, and now I love it. And our latest one we're doing is like a scissory thing. We're doing a fun little scissory thing where I'm lying on my right hip and I've got one leg kind of over the other so he can get in from sideways behind me.
Mm-mm.
And that's been a lot of fun. And I just learned how to orgasm from intercourse in my 40s, but got really, really good at it in my 50s. And all of these different ways of having intercourse have helped me. But the other thing that I also have really been doing is I've been spelunking the cave. I've been having him really do a lot of penis pivoting and going
with
super
inside
deep
your
inside my vagina.
Mm.
Yeah. So really activating all that tissue on the other side of the vaginal lining, activating all of that. People talk about cervical orgasms and G-spot orgasms and, anterior fornix and, all this. It's like, okay, well, that's 3 spots, but it's a 360-degree, multi-dimensional, cosmic environment. So like, don't worry about where everything is. Just work it all, work every angle. I mean, because the left and the right sides are your pudendal nerves. They run down your legs. They activate your whole lower body. The bottom, the floor of your vagina is where the perineal sponge is, which is part of your overall erectile tissue structure. And that gets all engorged. I mean, there's just so many great things you can do just with intercourse. I have at least 10 different orgasmic intercourse techniques that you can try at orgasmicintercourse.com. I just put a list of them at that one page so that you could link off to all my blog articles with all my little glissando and the heart tongue and the penis pivots and the pompoir and, all the different things you can do just with intercourse. What you're doing is you're stimulating new neural pathways from your genital system to your brain. And you have to develop the pathway so you can begin to feel and isolate the sensations and know what you're feeling. At first, it's all muddy because the lines aren't clean and there's not many, it's not an information superhighway yet. But over time, it's an information superhighway. And what's nice about that is that the more that you can light your brain up in different areas, the more blood flow goes to your brain. And the more blood flow that goes to your brain, the more you're extending your sex span, which is extending your health span, which is giving you more longevity, a longer, happier life because you're having sex.
I want to leave the audience with anything that you think belongs in this conversation that hasn't been said yet.
Pick something that sounded good to you today. Like if it was Yoni massage and you're like, I want to get better at that, go to betterlover.com. That's my website that has 200 videos. And I think 20 or 30 of them are about Yoni massage and lingam massage and expanded orgasm and the doing position and all the things that, those like detailed questions that I walk you through. It's all free. That might be good. Or maybe you're like, I want to do the sex life bucket list. That sounds really good. Or I'm going to try small offers. I really like that. Whatever it is, you'll pick up something intrigued you. And that's how sex is. It's this vast landscape and it's never ending. So here I am looking forward to my next date with my husband. I mean, I'm already thinking about the next time I can get that man in bed. Just start anywhere because it's all there for you. And I think that's one of the reasons I like the sex life bucket list is because you guys can merge your lists and you have some things to pick off, like, oh, okay. Yeah, I really want to learn how to give you incredible blowjobs, or whatever it is. So I think just start anywhere and continue the journey. Use your curiosity, notice your growth, work on your communication skills, realize that every woman every day is wildly different and that we all are. But men are a little more steady state. Women are wildly different from day to day. And that's not just because of how much sleep we got, how much stress we're under, what our nutrition was, whether or not we got our steps and exercise in, but also our hormonal flow, which even after we stop menstruating, still our hormones ebb and flow. And so all of these things affect us, which is what makes us so fun to fuck. And that's because we are always a wild, adventurous ride. You just have to let her tune into herself and see what Yoni wants. And Yoni has lips, but she can't talk. But mommy can, so ask her, what's Yoni want today?
I love this. And if you're a woman listening, maybe you want to start by just asking yourself what Yoni wants.
Yeah.
And then you share it when you're ready.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know till you've got hands on you. And then you'll be able to feel it with the sense. We have so many senses. It's not the six senses. It's 7, 8, 9, 10. It's infinite. And one of our senses is interoception. And interoception is, what am I feeling in my body? And I mean, when you have to fart, you're holding it in. So you can certainly tell if that touch on your yoni is too hard, too soft, higher, lower. I want more, I want less. Don't go inside, go inside, all of those things. You just have to listen to her. She's always talking to you. So creating that connection and dialogue and speaking on her behalf so that your partner also knows what's going on with her is super helpful.